Today I am making a very special Christmas cookie highlighting the persimmon, but not the squatty persimmon that's crunchy and hard like an apple. These persimmons, they have to be super soft. This one is not soft enough. Let me show you a super soft one where it will be turned into like a pudding on the inside. This is super ripe. It would be fun to just eat it with a spoon, but we're gonna use the puree inside here to make my grandmother's persimmon cookies. Except I've made quite a few tweaks. So my grandma made the absolute best cookies in the world. I have never been able to duplicate her real chocolate chip cookies to make them taste as incredible as she made them. But she's the kind of woman who put a cup of sugar in a salad. I made it sugar-free, so it's sweetened with dates. I took out the gluten just because that's my own problem. We'll try it without any oil, no butter, no dairy, no soy. It's gonna be great. Now, I would go for her chocolate chip cookies any time of the year, but I would actually choose her persimmon cookies over her chocolate chip cookies during the holidays, because these persimmons, they do not ripen quickly. So this is definitely a Christmas cookie. So you're gonna need to have about 4 of these overripe. If you have ever tried to eat one of these when it's not quite ripe, don't try it. You really won't even be able to move your lips. It's so chalky and strange. You want to get it out of your mouth as soon as possible. When they're ripe, we're gonna make some puree. So I will be making, from my cookbook, my Grandma Jean's persimmon cookies. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is make that persimmon puree. So I'm thinking 3 super ripe persimmons, the raindrop type, should get me the cup of puree I need for this recipe. So I'll start with 3. So what you have to do is peel the skin off, because that doesn't blend up very well. And you're just gonna want the inside, which is this super sweet, juicy, it's already pureed a little bit, but we're gonna make it smoother. So this pulp stuff is what is going in. So I'm gonna discard the skin, and I have my measuring cup next to me that I'm just gonna scoop all of this deliciousness into. I have my cup of the persimmon pulp that I will then puree in the food processor to make it smoother in a minute. So I'm gonna set it aside. For now, I'm gonna start with the oats that I need to grind up in the food processor. I'm trying to save me a washing or rinsing out of the food processor by doing it in this order. So you're going to need to have 3 cups of rolled oats, which are gonna go into your food processor, and we're gonna grind them up into a flour. These are gluten-free oats, meaning they haven't been cross-contaminated by wheat at the processing mill. We're making about 4 dozen cookies here, and we're gonna use the medjool date, the juiciest, plumpest date we can buy on the shelves. And we are going to just rip them in half and pit them, so just have a little discard area for the seed. And so 20 of these are going into the food processor. Now, I know 20 seems like a lot. Really, it takes no time at all just to rip them and dump them in. But just think of how much sugar that's nutrient less would be. But these are adding nutrients into something that wouldn't have nutrients. So that's one of the benefits, just one of many benefits of dates. So I'm gonna add 20 of these pitted into the food processor. Using the pulse mode on my food processor, I will help break down the dates and then eventually turn it on to incorporate it into a sandy texture. All right, so I got it was a lot of dates and oats in there, so it's not exactly ready yet, but it's mixed in good enough. I'm gonna get a bowl and dump it into this glass bowl and then put the persimmons in here. So I'm just gonna dump this in here for now. So then I'm just gonna add my persimmons in here. And we're gonna put in some nutmeg and cinnamon and some lemon juice and orange juice. So that's all gonna go into this food processor. So a half teaspoon of Pink Himalayan sea salt is going in. Half a teaspoon ground nutmeg. So I'm going to put in 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And you're going to need 1 teaspoon each of baking powder and baking soda. Since we're not using eggs in this recipe, we need 1 tablespoon of ground flax seeds. And so this I'm going to just put in with my persimmon mixture here. Usually that goes in with the dry ingredients, but my food processor was a little too compacted with all of that in there before. So now we're gonna need some vanilla extract. 1 teaspoon of a pure vanilla extract. Two tablespoons of orange juice is going in there. I accidentally picked up the wrong type of orange. I thought I was getting navel oranges. It turns out it's some cara, which looks kind of like a blood orange in some of them, and some of them aren't so red. So it tastes very similar to orange. You can also use orange juice if that's what you have. 2 tablespoons of orange juice. That was about half of an orange. 1 teaspoon of lemon juice will go in there. I have my oven heating up to 375 degrees. So when I was a little girl and my grandma made these cookies, she always added 3/4 cups of chopped walnuts, which I definitely recommend. They really make this cookie great. Even if you're not normally a nut person like me, I really enjoyed the nuts in these cookies. But I cannot eat walnuts anymore since I've become a mature adult, so I am not gonna add nuts here. So what we're gonna do is mix up everything. So the puree is in my food processor, the persimmons and the spices, and then we're gonna add that to this. We're gonna put this in a little bit at a time so it can incorporate in all together. Now, because we're not adding any oil or butter, we may need a little bit more liquid to get it all going together. It depends on the juiciness of the date too. So we're just gonna try it without any additional liquid first and see what happens. Yeah, I don't have enough liquid in my mixture, so I'm going to add 1/4 cup of unsweetened almond milk. You could probably substitute with any type of non-dairy milk you like. The 1/4 cup of unsweetened almond milk was all it needed to get this to come together, this beautiful orange dough that we are now going to place in spoonfuls onto a Silpat cookie sheet. If you don't have one, I highly recommend this Silpat, which prevents the burning or browning too quickly on the bottom of the cookies when we use cookie sheets. So definitely recommend a Silpat. These don't need to be spaced too far apart because they're not going to expand much. So I normally just take 2 spoons and I use one to scoop out of the food processor and the other one just to slide off onto my cookie sheet. This is a pretty good size cookie, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that for the dough. It'll take a few batches. All right, these beautiful cookies are going in the oven for 12 minutes. If you haven't caught my hot cocoa video yet, this would be a delicious pairing to these persimmon cookies.